Good evening. This is Ashley Smith, the Canyon City Mayor. I have with us our City Council. As you may see, we have these new plexiglass things. This is a little awkward.
I'm ecstatic.
But it's nice that we can talk and be next to each other and still be safe due to COVID-19. I'd like to welcome everybody that's here participating by Zoom or also on Facebook Live. Just for public record, for those who are watching, if we are broadcast as a city council conducting a public meeting, we do not wear our masks, and we also have a number that are hearing impaired and need to be able to read our lips to be able to communicate during this public meeting. Let's go ahead and call our meeting to order and start with a roll call, please.
Councilmember Dennehy.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Jaquez.
Here.
Councilmember Meisner.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember B. Smith.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Here. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do have a citizen's request to speak to the City Council, and I believe those citizens that are here are mostly here to speak on the same subject that we all are deeply mourning over. And if you wouldn't mind, Councilmember Reed, if you can kind of do the introductions, and then I'll call each of you up one by one.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. Less than a week ago, we lost one of our own. Rochelle Rado was a bright spark in our business community. I watched as she pushed through a delayed opening, government restrictions for occupancy, changes in safety procedures, delayed supply demands, losing her team because of the school-mandated quarantine, and even backlash from some in her own community as she did her best to learn the ropes of both business and COVID. This amazing woman smiled at everyone who walked through that door, built out a beautiful space to relax, and made one amazing bagel. The Boat Barn Bagel Company instantly was a splash on Main Street. Rochelle loved people. She didn't care about your politics or your past. She was a good hugger, fun friend, and great business owner. She built that shop. She built it fast and to perfection. As things quickly fell apart in the world around us, with so much division and ugliness towards each other, Rochelle had the fun idea to unite over common ground. What better way to unite for a bagel lover than cream cheese? Rochelle started a project before her passing of spread cream cheese, not hate, her way of putting a stamp of joy and love on her corner of the world. Shirts are being sold with this happy message from Rochelle, and all benefits will be going straight to her family. You can order a shirt by emailing tomandkatskarmastudio@gmail.com or contacting pretty much any business owner on Main Street, and we'll help get you to the right spot. For now, I want us all to remember the enormous amount of stress and fear that all businesses are feeling. So many of us are just one mandate away from giving up. Please let's stand together to never let this happen again to one of our own. And with that, it's my heart's honor to be able to introduce Rochelle's mom, Sherry Rogers. If you'd like to come up and speak, Sherry, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to be here. I met with Mandy. Can you hear me? I had met with Mandy, and she said, you were doing this evening, and I said, can I come? She loved you. My daughter loved you. She spoke very highly of you, by the way. So I just want to say I'm not here to criticize in any way, because I don't think any of us know how to do what's been going on. For my daughter, there were very few resources in the COVID realm. We were able to get masks, and she was able to get help from Brandy Fowler, and the community as a whole swarmed around her. But the financial toll to her was huge. And it's my opinion that she's a casualty of COVID. So we can't make COVID go away. We're not powerful enough to tell the governor what to do. But maybe as a community there is resources that people can reach out for that are financial. And that by no means do I mean that the other things didn't count. Rochelle was so grateful every time Brandy showed up with, here's some masks, here's some sanitary stuff, here's some tables that she helped with to get her outdoor seating. All of those things are very tangible and helpful, and I don't want to negate that at all. But when she could only have half her people, and then the next thing that comes to mind is, and this is a national thing, I'm a nurse, I'm a hospice nurse. I'm not afraid of COVID, by the way. I wear my mask out of respect for other people. If she had had the capability to test herself and her staff when that happened from the high school, her employees would not have walked. And I don't know how we do that. If we have to live by their rules, how can we test other small businesses' employees when the high school says, nope, you gotta isolate, which all of my daughter's employees walked, every one of them, 2 weeks, or whenever that happened. I don't know when that was, like 2 weeks. And she tried to do it, and she couldn't do it, and she killed herself. She was strong, she was smart, she was developing the business mind and doing well. Mandy was very helpful with that. So I know you guys are searching. I truly am not here to criticize in any way. I just feel like those two things is dollars are more important than probably just about anything. And I don't know how companies get their dollars, how they can get them. And then testing so that when the community freaks out, like Casey can test herself and say, I'm negative, my employees are negative. Do we have that capability to test that quickly? I just think that
Well,
would...
72 hours.
So that's my two things, money, tangible money for those people that are genuinely struggling, and then testing so that people don't walk away. We're all negative, you can say, my whole company's negative, you're safe, you can work here. And she loved this town. I had no idea the depths of her reach in this town. It was very deep. She loves this town. She just couldn't take it anymore. She tried, she tried, she tried. She couldn't take it anymore. So my very last thing is, there's probably people in this room that have said, I can't take it anymore. I don't know that I can stand up to this anymore. Business owners who are at their last dollar or their last, whatever. And I just want you to reach out to others. Not just, everybody seems to be in the same boat. Everybody I hear from, they're all in the same boat where they're just scratching along. And it's our responsibility as humans to care for one another and help one another, and this community does a great job. But just tell people if you're in that boat that you can't take it anymore. There's the financial, people just giving money to help with her funeral and stuff. There's people here that will help. I just want to encourage what you're already doing and provide the testing for the companies that need it. And I wonder if anybody has any questions of me.
I want to really thank you for being here tonight. I can't imagine the courage and the strength that it takes to stand before us and be so poised.
I'm not. Thank you.
In the loss, in the tragic, tragic loss of your daughter. And you're right, she's beautiful. She was smart and strong, an amazing business person. I was so proud of her and the quality business that she brought to our main street. And you're absolutely right. She's a casualty of COVID, no doubt.
It doesn't, I'm certain. And it just breaks my heart.
And I want to thank you for being here.
Yes, ma'am.
I actually had a bouquet of flowers that I was going to bring by to Rochelle. And she had closed for the day, and I was unable to give them to her to thank her for her business and her hard work. And unfortunately, I was never able to give them to her because shortly after she had taken her life. And my heart is shattered into a million pieces that tonight I have to give these flowers to you instead. And I just hope you know the regret and the pain that we all have for her loss to our community. And her roots were deep,
Yes,
very deep. We are all mourning.
I know you are. And I'm honored by how everyone is honoring her.
We do have some comments from council members, and if you're okay, I would like to give you your flowers, and
Yes, ma'am.
that's all right. Councilmember Dennehy.
Well, first, I want to tell you just how sorry I am. I had the honor of going in and help doing a little cleaning there, and she asked us a few questions because my wife and I had a little cafe before we did the pizza business. But I just want to tell you how sorry I am because what a great member of our community. Absolutely. When she reached out to us, you know, it was that made us feel good, and then I know my wife even went in and did some cleaning with her, and she is going to be missed. You have somebody that you have to be so proud of who she was. I mean, absolutely. You couldn't ask for a better person. And it is a tragedy of the events that are going on in our world right now, and I agree with that. And it's a hard subject to deal with right now, and I don't think there is a solid answer for it, but know that you are in our thoughts and prayers. And I know it's not going to be easy, but we are praying for you every day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for raising such a beautiful woman. My daughter worked there.
What's your
And
daughter's first name?
Anna,
Anna. Oh, I heard good things about Anna.
she's a wild girl, but she had a connection with Rochelle that she'll never forget. She's a high schooler and she was in cohort A, and I was angry that she was having to stay home, and I told her, nope, you're gonna go to work. I don't care what happens, you're going to work. And then I thought, no, I need to give this to, I need to let her boss make this decision, because I didn't want her to get in trouble with her business.
Yep.
So partly I feel to blame, but I know that that's just the way that our lives are right now. But she had a very special place in my daughter's heart, and I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
And she loved her job there. I don't know what teenager loves to go to work, but she loved it, absolutely loved it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Downing.
Councilmember Jaquez.
You know, one of the sad things about life is there's never really a proper time for us to lose a loved one. And the strength that you have and your family has is what will help you folks continue. And I never had a chance to get there, but my daughter did. I'm not a bagel eater, but my daughter did, so she would go, and when she heard about it, she couldn't believe it either. You know, the struggle of starting to get going, not getting going, and then trying to get going again. Life, sometimes we say, it doesn't deal us a very good hand sometimes. But when life doesn't deal us a good hand, the thing that's the most important is people caring and sharing, and those folks that have the opportunity to go there, like my daughter and that, share those memories with each other. You know, it's one of the things, you know, we have FaceTime and all this other stuff and everything. It's one of those times when we can tell somebody, even though we didn't know them personally, that we respected them and we cared for them. And we lost another fine citizen of this town, of this country, of this United States of America. My heart goes out for you.
Thank you. Mr. Jaquez, I noticed when you came in, you have a cross around your neck. And I can tell you that without Christ being a part of this story, I would not be standing here. There's no way, because he's the one that's getting me through this, and my husband and family, but without him, I would not be standing here.
I'm going to try to say something. I don't know that I can be as strong as you are. When she opened her shop at this summer, my grandson happened to be here for the summer and spent at least a couple of days helping them set things up and get going and cleaning up. So him and her daughter have known each other since grade school. The other thing is you know, we've lost an individual that had an impact on her kids. That's gone, and we need to learn how to deal with that. And you need to learn how to deal with the loss. My heart goes out with you. I know exactly what you're feeling. So whatever I can do, let me know.
Yes, sir. I do want to say that our prayer right now is that someone will buy it and continue it, and that Rochelle's dream will live on, and that gap that she filled in our community will continue on, and that the love that she had for this community will continue on. And so that's our fervent prayer right now, is that someone will continue it on in honor of her and our grandchildren. So, I got to put my face on, huh? Gonna make me cry.
Let us know whatever we can do.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Let's go ahead and move on to some of the requests to speak to council. I do need to keep comments to 3 minutes each. There will be a timer on there. Yellow is you have like 30 seconds left, and red your time is up. I'll go in the order that I have these received, and we'll start with Jennifer Malaspini.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Malaspini, and I own Bella Capelli Salon. Actually, I would like to give the time to speak to Debbie because she really has come up with a group statement for us. We just all wanted to reiterate how strongly we feel about this.
Okay, Debbie Lakes, are you speaking on behalf of all of these names? So I have David McCall. Hi, David. Brianna. That's Brianna Frida. We also have Lori Leonard and Benji Leonard. Recognize that you're here today. So Debbie, I'd like to go ahead and invite you up to the podium. I'll give you 5 minutes since you're speaking on behalf of an entire group.
Thank you. I probably won't need 5 minutes. And also, if the others still did want to speak, I wanted to give them the opportunity also. I am Debbie Lake, and I am a small business owner here in Canyon City. Just a week ago, a dear friend and business owner on Main Street took her life. Rochelle started her business during COVID and worked hard to make it successful, and she was profitable. Unfortunately, difficulty in retaining staff due to COVID restrictions contributed to the stress in her life. She was constantly striving to find a balance with a new business, her family, and her personal life. She leaves behind a grieving mother, 2 teenagers, and a multitude of friends. Suicides and domestic violence, depression are growing in our nation. One well-known children's hospital saw a 40% increase in attempted pediatric suicides just in the month of September. In the last 2 weeks, I have personally encountered a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old that have threatened suicide. Our county within our community has had 0.5% positive test of the entire population. When we overreact, the consequences are far-reaching. Restrictions have consequences beyond simply confronting the virus and beyond anyone's ability to perceive. As President Trump has stated, we cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself. We are asking you to not impose any more restrictions on us. We need to remain open to do business as usual as much as possible. We've complied with the requirements of masks, sanitizing, and distancing. Work with us. Trust us to know how to serve our customers. We desire to have a relationship with the city that allows all of us to collaborate on decisions that concern all of us. Thank you.
Are there any questions from council members? Would anyone else? Oh, Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Debbie, for coming and speaking with us, and thank you for all of you that are coming and echoing the same sentiments. I just really appreciate you taking the time. I think that the situation that we've seen recently, the voices of business owners need to continue to be heard and heard loud, and the only way that's going to happen is if we continue to come together and speak. And so I really appreciate you coming out tonight and saying it, and I hope that you will say it again and again and again until things change. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jaquez.
The one thing that you bring up, we know that the business people are going to do everything that they can to make sure their establishments are safe. And I hope the people that are out there listening to this council, all that, you can do your part also. When you go into the business and that, respect their restrictions. You know, forget about it. You know, it's not going to hurt you to wear your mask for the short period of time you have to, and once you leave there. Because by you also supporting what needs to be supported helps them keep open, and that, and it also helps the community from going into a more deeper lockdown that we don't want to see at all, you know. So I appreciate everything that the business people are doing, and now we as citizens in Canyon City, We need to support them, not just by supporting them in their business, but let's support them by obeying and going with the restrictions that we have so we can make this town a safer place for everybody to go in and do their shopping, have their meals, and meet with their friends and people. Thank you for coming in and talking to us.
And if I may say, our community has done amazing. They're amazing. We don't have problems, and I think I speak for all of the businesses, at least all that I know here on Main Street. Our community is really doing well on complying with all the things that we've asked them to do, and I do appreciate that. We all appreciate that from our community.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Debbie, everyone here, thank you for showing and speaking up. I would have to say that our community has really has gone above and beyond to support our business members, our business owners who've had to comply with these standards that have been put out. Small business owners have had to suffer through a closure and then try to reopen and rebuild their business. And our community has definitely stepped up and done that. Mm-hmm. I think what you're trying to say is don't make it harder in the future, because cases are rising and we don't know what's going to happen with our future. And to try to sustain another shutdown would be detrimental. So I hear you. I hear what you're saying, and I hope that everyone here on council hears what they're saying too. As a business owner, to shut down through another round would be detrimental to your business. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you standing up and saying that, and everyone showing to say that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else from the audience like to come up? Okay, like for the public record, say that we have...
I'm Lori Leonard.
Lori Leonard.
And I have Salon de Chavot downtown, and also Benji and I own Gift Chateau together. I told Cindy I didn't know if I would speak, but I didn't promise I wouldn't, so I'm going to. First of all, I'd like to tell you I'm so sorry for the loss of your daughter. We didn't know Rochelle, but we were patrons of her business. We enjoyed what she had to offer here, and I'm sure eventually we would have gotten to know her, and we probably would have loved her like everybody else does. My frustration is, and it's not just that it's not going to just be detrimental to our businesses. It'll be detrimental to our community if you shut our businesses down again. Neither one of our businesses will reopen if you shut us down. So that's 2 businesses off of Main Street, and between the 2 businesses, we have 9 employees. If you shut me down, I'm done, and you'll lose my family from this community, a family that's been here since my husband was a child. The other thing I don't understand, and I keep trying to wrap my mind around it, is where is the consistency in what we do when we quarantine? I know that there was a teacher in cohort A, he had to quarantine. His son in cohort B stayed home in public school, but his wife taught at Washington School. How do we not spread when we're doing that? How are we doing that? I had a guest at my salon call in and have to cancel her appointment today because she was exposed. She has to quarantine for 72 hours. So I'm asking you, where is the consistency? People are frustrated, not because there's a virus, not that because we're being asked to do things to protect our fellow citizens and to protect ourselves. We're frustrated because there's no consistency. Please help us with that.
So I just want to have some clarifications. When you say that you shut us down, that came from Governor Polis.
Agreed.
In the state of Colorado.
I understand
that was not
that.
something that we were excited about or wanted to have to deal with. My husband's
Understood.
business was shut down as well. Incredibly stressful and long-term effects on our business. So I am right there with you. And as far as the inconsistencies, we agree. We hate the inconsistencies as well. That also comes from Governor Polis in the state of Colorado. As far as Canyon City goes, I want you to know that I spoke to the county commissioners. They are petitioning to the state CDPHE. They've told Rochelle's story that we can't have any more restrictions on our businesses. I have been to a number of meetings where our small business owners are insanely paranoid that they'll be shut down again. They're barely going to make it as it is, and if there's more restrictions, they're not going to make it. We hear it and we understand it, and we are fighting for our small businesses as best we can. Because Canyon City does not have a health department, we don't have the control or the ability to make decisions on our own. And even our county are subject to the state. And so when the plea is for our citizens to make good decisions in their personal lives for health and safety, you're making that decision for our businesses, for the life and death of our businesses, and now for the literal lives of our business owners. And that it's our behaviors that are going to make the difference on what the state does to us. We were put under a 10-day restriction through FCDPHE. That was to buy us some time to get our numbers down. If we cannot get our rate of new positive numbers down, the state of Colorado can move us to level 3. We don't want to go there, ever, in any way, shape, or form, at any time. And so my plea to the general public is, the best thing that we can do right now is to wash our hands frequently, wear our masks, and make good decisions in our personal lives and in our business lives to make sure that we're socially distancing and not putting our businesses at risk, or the employees, that they need to be able to go to work with confidence. As far as testing goes, I do want to just make sure for public record that the FCDPHE does do testing, and right now we have Mako testing that has a 72-hour turnover. So if anyone does feel like they have any symptoms, number one, stay at home, and then go to Mako and get tested. And you can have, luckily, right now we have them here for that 72-hour turnaround so they can safely go back to work and do what they need. Thank you all for being here. We hear you, we understand. We want to fight for you too. And we recognize the plight that we're in right now with our small businesses.
Thank you.
I had Mandy and Dolly. Did you have said the things that you needed to say? Councilman Meisner?
No.
Okay. All right, again, thank you so much. And please stay in communication with us. That's probably the most important thing. We need to know the struggles, and so that we can be there to help with the solutions. Also, there's a Facebook Live with the mayor this Thursday, 4 p.m. via Zoom. We have the director of SCDPHE to talk about where we're at with COVID for Canyon City right now. And also, Sylvista Health will be there with some clinicians to talk about mental health. If there is a business owner that would like to join us for the Facebook Live, I'd be very happy to invite you to join us to talk about the plight of the small business owner in Canyon City and the needs that you have for local support and for being able to stay open and do business. And you can contact me personally, Debbie. I'm going to maybe make you that spokesman if somebody would like to join us, maybe if you could help connect me. Yeah. Yes. That'll be Thursday, 4 p.m., and it'll be on Zoom on Facebook. Okay. We'll move on to council member announcements now. Oh, sorry, Mandy, you're not on there. Go ahead, Mandy.
I just wanted to say, when this all started, frankly, it was new to us. It was new being on council. It was new being as business owner for myself. But I just want to let all of you know, and everyone that is listening, that we're not just listening to you anymore. Like, I will continue to advocate for you. We are all going to continue, I think I can say truthfully, to advocate for these things to not get worse, for us to not have another shutdown. So I just wanted to say wholeheartedly that standing up here tonight and having these comments is not just echoing like the way I'm echoing off of these stupid plastic things, but I just wanted to say that I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to purpose to do everything I can to do something about it too. So thank you again.
Councilmember Jaquez.
Well, this is kind of like a personal thing, but it goes along with all the problems we're having right now with the COVID and everything else, you know. November the 18th started my wife on a journey that she didn't want to take, but it came. She's been hospitalized back and forth. She's had 5 surgeries. She missed Thanksgiving, Christmas with the family. November the 10th, we're hoping that it all changes. So that's supposedly the last day that they're going to be able to perform the operation that she needs to hopefully get her back, into a regular life. And so when I look at the suffering that we all have to go through and all that, she's lived in the house. We go for a little ride every once in a while, take a quick ride to Florence, take a quick ride to Pueblo and that. Of course, we take a lot of rides to the doctors and to the hospital. But I want to thank this council also, and this is what helps everybody, the support that they've given to me and my family with regards to that. Their concerns with everything else. I appreciate everything that, that they've said and everything else. And let's hope, I hope, and she does too. She wants to get out of the house and enjoy being able to go to some of the local establishments in town and everything to enjoy that. So let's hope November the 10th, 8 days shy of a year, that she's going to be able to do that. Thank this council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. We do wish the best for your wife in her next surgery. Any other announcements from City Council? Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to remind everybody, we have a general government meeting this Wednesday at 5 o'clock with the thrilling subject of our employee handbook. And in addition, right after that at 6 o'clock, we have the first Urban Renewal Authority meeting, which is kind of an organizational meeting, but there will be some items of business, I believe, that we have on the agenda that if people have an interest to either come in person or watch on Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would also like just to let the City Council know that this last week there was the inaugural Mayor's Industry Advisory Council, and that was where we were able to have a number of every entity or industry that we could think of in Canyon City come and report to me and our economic development group to report about what the status is in their industry and also to act as an advisory council to us. And I really appreciate the 26 panelists that participated in that. I was really encouraged by that, and I'm grateful that we have them so we can have open communication, that we can keep a pulse on where we are at for Canyon City, and also that we can have be solution-based and get things done for the better for Canyon City. And that's thanks to that Mayor's Industry Advisory Council and their willingness to participate in it. I'd also really like to thank everyone that participated in the spectacular reverse parade for our kids. I'm really proud of our community for showing even during difficult times of a global pandemic that we can still celebrate in safe and wonderful ways, and that it was a huge success. And we've heard lots of great things from both the kids and the families and the participants in that parade. And already the Chamber of Commerce now is looking at what they can do for the Parade of Lights. A lot of people have been asking about the Parade of Lights, and plans are underway, and they will let you know soon what that officially will look like, but absolutely we need to celebrate as a community that beautiful time of our holiday season. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that. And we're going to move on to the recognition and proclamations. And this proclamation actually is for our small businesses. And this is in support of Small Business Saturday. And in our conversations of supporting our small businesses during these hard times, Small Business Saturday is an avenue and a promotion for having people go shop on the 28th of November, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, to start their Christmas shopping by patronizing small businesses, and really recommend that our community think about their Christmas shopping and ways that they can support small businesses both in Canyon City, but also in the towns where you may have loved ones that you are buying gifts for, and to think about the small businesses in their communities as well to support them. I would like to be able to read that proclamation and hope to see you downtown on November 28th and many times before then. Whereas the government of Canyon City, Colorado celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 30.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all firms with paid employees in the United States, are responsible for 64.9% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2018. And whereas small businesses employ 47.3% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 62% of small businesses reported that they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID levels by the end of 2020 in order to stay in business. 65% of U.S. small business owners said it would be most helpful to their business to have their regulars return and start making purchases again, and 3/4 of U.S. consumers are currently looking for ways to shop small and support their community. Whereas 96% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at small, independently owned businesses supports their commitment to making purchases that have a positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And 90% of consumers who shop on Small Business Saturday agree that small businesses are essential to their community. And whereas 95% of consumers who shop on Small Business Saturday reported the day makes them want to shop or eat at small, independently owned businesses all year long, not just during the holiday season. And whereas Canyon City, Colorado supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Ashley Smith, Mayor of Canyon City, Colorado, have the distinct honor of proclaiming November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. So I hope we do come out in droves to support our businesses. Brandon Smith, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something quickly to everybody that's listening and to the small business owners that are still here. We, at least at my business, we've been doing Small Business Saturday this will be our 6th one. And I think that every Small Business Saturday is important, but I think this year Small Business Saturday has a little bit different of a significance. So I urge everybody to spend as much money locally as they can.
Thank you for that, Councilman. And we'll now move on to the consent agenda.
Yep. Before we move on to the consent agenda, I would like to say a couple things about Small Business
Ryan,
Saturday
can you
as
try and
well.
speak more into the your microphone, because we're having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, a little
Is that
bit.
any better? A little bit. Okay. In regards to Small Business Saturday, I want to say that for many of our local businesses, sometimes that's the best day of the year. And every Small Business Saturday seems to be better and better attended every year. And just want to remind folks that the money that gets spent in small businesses, that circulates through the economy more than shopping at Walmart or certainly shopping at Amazon, where many of those dollars end up going back to those corporate headquarters. So please spend those dollars locally and support our local businesses. Moving on to the consent agenda, item 7A is to approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting on October 19th, the special city council meeting on October 12th and October 14th, as well as October 15th for the Brownfields meeting and October 21st for the budget hearing. And then October 23rd was for the community agency funding. 7B authorizes the appointment of Kirk Souther to the Planning Commission. 7C authorizes the city administrator to sign a MOA for the control of confidential data with the state. 7D authorizes the city administrator to sign the direct services linkage agreement with Children's Advocacy Center. 7E authorizes the mayor to sign a water services contract for JP Property Subdivision. 7F authorizes the mayor to sign the US 50 lighting project with the Colorado Department of Transportation. It's an intergovernmental agreement. 7G is the declaration of surplus property. And 7H is to receive and file the list of bills.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Ryan. On item F, it explained that this was a first of 4 phases on the CDOT lighting project. How many streetlights are in this one project? It listed 86 streetlights. Is that a total of 86, or is it, is that just 1/4 of the whole total project?
Yeah, and we have Adam Lancaster, the city engineer, on the phone. If Adam, do you want to take that one, please?
Sure. So this first phase, we assume, is going to take care of the design and 1/4 of those lights as far as installation. I have started discussions with Black Hills Energy, and we believe we may be able to do it even cheaper than what was estimated, assuming that we don't have to go to a third-party contractor, that we may be able to use a lot of in-kind from Black Hills themselves. So that was a general estimate to get the grant. And of course, now that the money is awarded, we'll stretch those dollars as far as we can. Hopefully way beyond 4 phases. We'll be able to do actually more in this initial phase.
Great. So does that mean the $700 and whatever thousand that were given through the grant and then the city match, is that the total for the whole for all 4 projects, or will there be?
That's the total of what when we had estimated. That was the total we had assumed would be the first phase and the total design for all 4 phases. But I'm encouraged by my early discussions with Black Hills. We might be able to be way cheaper than those initial estimates, and hopefully be able to do the full design in multiple phases.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Meisner.
Adam, what kind of lights are they putting in there?
So that hasn't really, that's going to be still determined in the design. But what we're envisioning right now is your standard high-level lighting that is similar to what's installed at the intersections, or what maybe you would see there just east of 15th Street on the highway now. We would get rid of some of the older wooden poles and provide a spacing that's adequate to light the corridor. The priority area will be there between Reynolds and Dozier, because that's where we've had some significant accidents and issues there. So that'll be the first priority area, and there's very, very little lighting there. I assume we will also go with something that's more efficient, probably an LED.
Okay, that was my specific, I guess I didn't ask, is whether we were talking about LED type technology.
Yeah, this is a significant project that we would have enough lights that we would want to match them up so that they are consistent and would be easy to maintain.
Councilmember Brandon Smith.
And I don't know if this is for Ryan or Adam, but this project is based on pedestrian crossing or lighting, or safety, is that correct?
It's for all levels of safety for motorists and pedestrians. We have had 2 pedestrian deaths in that area that were attributed to lighting, but we also have issues with vehicular accidents, and we also have some collisions with deer and wildlife.
Thank you.
Councilmember Meisner.
It's either for Tammy or for Ryan, but on your surplus property, there's 5 or 6 items on there that are highlighted. Does that have any significance? Somebody thought it was significant to highlight it.
Yeah. Tammy, do you want to go through the highlighted items?
Sure. Those items there, those are actually tools or related to tool-like items, such as like the ladder and the dolly. Those were going to be items that have been sitting out there for some time that we were going to get with city personnel to see if that's something that could be used for surplus within the city. If not, some of these items will probably be taken to Bonnie's Car Crushers or be disposed of, depending on what they deem as how good a shape or how bad a shape they are in, if they're usable. Because they have been sitting, all these items have been sitting outside for some time.
Any further questions from City Council about the consent agenda or the agenda? Councilmember Meisner?
To the cash disbursements. Ryan, is those Black Hills Energy bill, is that a net payment or is that a gross payment in terms of the credit that's received? Because there's a corresponding solar energy service, and I assume that's for the solar garden. So the 14,000 would actually be reflected on next month's bill, is that correct?
Yeah, regarding the credit that we received, that's on a specific account. I believe it comes out of the water fund. It's an account that's associated with the water fund. So that credit shows up on the bill for Black Hills. So the numbers that you see there are net, and then there's an additional agreement that goes towards the solar agreement.
So clarify, you're saying that total credit that we get for the solar garden goes all to the water plant?
Yeah, so they specifically identify one particular account to put the credit against. And the account that was selected at that time was one of the pump stations, I believe.
Well, what's the significance of all those meter readings that are listed on that old agreement? Those old meter count locations?
Yeah, those are all the meter count locations. That's, when they did their analysis, they looked at all the different meters that the city, or all the different accounts that the city has.
One last question. You got a FortiCare software renewal?
Would you like me to take that one, Ryan?
Yeah, go ahead, Tammy. I know we talked about this one.
So the FortiCare software renewal is actually for our firewall. So that is for that citywide.
All right, if there are no more questions, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda and agenda.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda and the consent agenda for tonight's meeting, November 2nd, 2020.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilman Jaquez?
No, I made the second.
We'll call the vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. We'll move on to the city administrator's report. So that's to you, Ryan.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. We had a huge cleanup that took place on Skyline Drive a week or so ago. There were over 1,900 pounds of trash and debris that were collected, completely filled a 10-yard dumpster. We took out, among other things, 27 tires, 1 couch, 1 stove, 2 microwaves, 55-gallon drum, bowling balls. We want to say thank you for cleaning it up to the Clean It Up volunteers that came and assisted, and actually led a lot of the effort. This was their second time down here, and we're working on actually setting up another one cleanup in the spring to do another cleanup there at Skyline Drive. We have received a lot of complaints about that in the past, and having these regular routine cleanups will certainly help in maintaining that over time.
Just a second, Ryan. Councilmember Gonzalez, did you have a question about this item?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. And my comment is, it was posted on Facebook that this was done, and there were a lot of comments that came back saying that they couldn't believe how much trash were in the hills over there. Well, I live there, and I know the wind that blows through there, and my kids and I and my husband, we go out and we clean up behind our house up into the hogbacks, and it is incredible the amount of trash that blows up against that hill. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because that's less work I have to do to go out there and clean it up. But there is a lot of trash that gets stuck in those trees and stuff out there. Sorry to interrupt.
And Ryan, I know we've talked a lot about this, about ways we could prevent this intentional illegal dumping at Hogbacks, a beautiful place that our community enjoys immensely, and on Skyline Drive. It'd be nice to be able to know if there are additional things that can be done. I know Rex Brady, our Parks Department, says that they literally cement garbage cans into the ground, and they get pulled out and dumped over the side. It's just nuts. So I'm sorry we have to do it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely grateful.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had to pull some of the trash cans out because, they do get dumped over the side. One thing that we could look at doing is actually closing Skyline Drive after dark, if that's something that council would support.
Oh, that's a rough one too, because
Yeah.
looking at this, the lights at night is amazing.
I don't
too.
think it has anything to do with closing after dark. I think a lot of it has to do that people leave their trash laying around, and it blows with the wind. People are not respectful enough to pack it out as they're leaving, and they don't realize that it ends up in a bush, a week later. So
Oh, I think that's a good idea to close it, because the wind can't blow couch, can't blow the 50-gallon barrel and all that. So there's some stuff there that has to come at nighttime when, nobody can see them and everything else in there. The litter part, yeah, that comes with the wind.
Mm-hmm.
But those big items, that has to come at nighttime when, someone knows that there's nobody up there. So let's take my 5-gallon dump and dump it off the side of the hill and everything.
I've seen
So-
TVs and sofas and.
So, I think we should look at possibly, closing it at a specific time in the evening or something like that.
Any other recommendations from council?
I think it's a mistake to close Skyline Drive. I feel like all we've done is try to prevent restrictions, and here we go, adding another restriction.
Any other comments from council? Councilmember Reed.
I agree with Brandon. I'm just sick of restrictions. Like, Skyline Drive is one of the coolest things that we have in our community, and Skyline Drive at night is even cooler, so I just don't want any extra rules.
Councilman Meisner.
I concur. We're going to have a certain element of our society that enjoys destroying things and littering, and that's a responsibility we have as a community to go back and clean up after those people. I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Well, and thank goodness we have the organizations that we do that are willing to go and do that. Unfortunately, that is the way our society is.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Thank you. Since we're weighing in on this, I myself am not in favor of closing the drive. I would rather see us concentrate on enforcement somehow rather than punishing everybody for the actions of a few.
Yep, education. So thank you, council, for weighing in on that. I'll go ahead and let you move on with the agenda, Ryan.
No, I appreciate that. We will come back with some ideas around education campaigns and step up enforcement on that. Rather than go through the entire administrator report, and there are a couple things that did not make it into the administrator report. The restriping of 9th and Main Streets, the intersection that was recently redone, that is going to be taking place on Wednesday. weather permitting, and weather looks good. So that should happen this Wednesday. And then, council recently approved the CARES Act business grants. We reviewed those first round of submittals today, and we'll be working on putting out some funding, bringing forward those applications for approval.
Thank you, Ryan, and let's make doubly sure. I know we've tried every effort and avenue we could possibly think of to let the public know that we do have CARES Act funding to support our small businesses to help pay their utility bills and rent and other expenses. I hope we can double those efforts for our small business owners at this time. Councilmember Meisner.
Yeah, we'll continue to put it.
Thank you.
I'd just like to take a second to acknowledge the efforts of the street department or whoever put forth a huge effort during our snowstorm to get as many streets as they could cleaned, and they were out early, so I appreciate that, and they did what I thought was a stupendous job cleaning up Main Street right away. One, getting the lanes cleared, and then two, coming back and actually removing that snow, so I appreciate that from the Public Works.
Thank you. We'll let them know.
Any other comments from council? Then we'll go ahead and move on to our discussion on item number 7A, 2021 Community Agency Funding. We'll start with our city administrator to give a report, and then we'll move on to Jim Meisner, if you don't mind giving a report as well.
Actually, Tammy Nordyke, if you'd like to give the report on this one, please.
I can either give it, or if Councilman Meisner would prefer, I'm good either way. What's your preference?
Doesn't matter to me. Want to flip for it?
I'll let you do it.
There it is.
That's not a flip. Council and mayor and staff. There was Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick, myself, Councilman Gonzalez, and Councilman Tim here. And we had a staff member, Brandy. We basically met with 11 different community organizations that essentially presented their needs to us. We looked at each of those organizations in terms of what they were doing and where the money was being spent, and then tried to make some reasonable allocations in terms of what made sense. I've been doing this for a number of years. I don't think I've been involved with a group that went back to council and said, these people wanted $10, but we're going to give them 15. But the problem or the situation is that we had a number of passionate organizations that are serving people that are in dire needs during COVID. And we felt that there appeared to be money available, at least in that particular budget, and that relative to basic needs of our community, we wanted to make for sure that some of those organizations had some additional funding. And most of that was related to providing food types of things with food banks and those types of things. Other than that, you've got a chart in front of you that pretty much lays out what they requested, what we approved. The one item that I need some information from Tammy is, I don't know, we try to limit the funds that they don't go to operating costs and payroll. And we had a question here from one organization that wanted some technology for their youth, and we were trying to figure out if it actually made sense to acquire that technology for their youth, considering the COVID issues that are out there with the school districts that are providing technology to youth, and we wanted a clarification on that. And I'm not sure what happened there, Tammy. Did you get any update?
Yes, I reached out to the organization, and they stated that the youth do not have My bird will scream every so often. The youth do not have laptops that they're able to take to them in the after-school program. And that also, our other question was who these would be serving, and they will be city residents. It will not be at their other locations, so they will be located in Canyon City.
So are you feeling like that what you found out would be such that we would approve what the committee had discussed?
I think it would. And I think we do need to look at it as trying to utilize the city's purchasing power on that after the first of the year to do that, and make the funds go, maybe they can go a little further.
That was the other thing that the group talked about is because we're buying some technology, there's some state price agreements that would potentially allow the city to acquire some technology at a much higher discount, and then instead of giving the organization the money, we would just buy the equipment and donate it to them, assuming that that falls within all the legal parameters that we've got. So we may be able to get 10 laptops instead of 8, or something like that.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to mention that from my viewpoint, there are two really organizations that I think is worthwhile talking about here tonight. One is the Canyon Literacy Center. I don't know if you noticed that they asked for $2,500, and essentially we doubled that amount. We do have organizations in this community that provide such an outstanding service. In this case, teaching kids to read, that is, absolutely essential to the underperforming kids, the kids that are having problems. Get them one-on-one with a tutor. The Canyon Literacy Center does run a lot on volunteer, and so anyone listening tonight that is thinking about doing something for their community, think about the Canyon Literacy Center. And the other organization I wanted to talk about was the Kindred Kids Child Advocacy Center. And this is an organization that, in my view, actually provides a necessary government service. If there's one thing that government should be organized to do, it should be that they make sure that the victims of crimes, especially children victims of crimes that may be sexual in nature, are taken care of. And what that means in this particular case is, getting children into a non-threatening environment where they can talk to one person one time instead of perhaps having to talk to 13 or 14 different people, including lawyers and scary police officers in their uniforms and things like that. I think that is the Kindred Kids is something that we as a council need to talk about in a different context than community agency funding. We do have that coming up later on our agenda, but I just wanted to make those observations.
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
So both Jim and John had spoke on something I wanted to say, but I also wanted to add that with this funding, we were able to help with snacks and food for a lot of these organizations because to some of these organizations, they're a comfort. They're a way to get people in the door. With COVID, they've had to change how they can pass out snacks and the types of food that they can hand out. Everything has to be prepackaged and individually wrapped. That is a lot more expensive than just buying a big box of goldfish and divvying them out separately. So a lot of the funding was increased for that purpose to help cover those funds. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Meisner.
Dolly stole my fire, but that was one of the points is I mean, you look at the cost for snacks and you're saying that's crazy, but you got to keep in mind that it's just like the goldfish thing. You can't go out and buy a box of goldfish and put it in a bowl and let the kids eat out of it now. You have to have individual servings. You have to have bottled water. I mean, there's a bunch of requirements with COVID that really puts a strain on these organizations that are helping out these kids. And believe it or not, those kids, those little guys, I'll say this, the snack is more important to them than the reading is, but that's the way it is. If that's the way you get them to start reading, then that's what we do, so.
Snacks are powerful tools. We even have snacks provided
That's right.
to us.
That's the only reason I come to the council meeting is because I get a snack. The other thing is like Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick mentioned, we would recommend to Ryan that he look at potentially, particularly with the Kindred Kids funding, that we really didn't look at that as community. We looked at that as more of a governmental responsibility, but we really didn't have the authority to say, we're not going to do it here. So we funded it out of here, hoping that maybe Ryan and Tammy would shuffle some funds and that would come out of a different funding, and then that would be more of a permanent expense or funding in future years, subject to council approval.
Ryan or Tammy, do you have something to report on that?
Yeah, and I think we've been able to do that with the budget, and we'll work on an agreement with Kindred Kids Center, similar to how we do that with Fremont Center for the Arts and some of the other agencies that we work with.
Do we need to make an amendment to the ordinance today because of that?
Can you just do a fund transfer?
Yeah, this isn't an ordinance, so it would, you'd just be approving the community agency funding and remove Kindred Care Kids from this particular document.
And move it over to the general fund.
Yeah, we would fund it out of our non-departmental.
If there's no further discussion, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Well, there is another thing that council needs to be aware of, and the fact that you'll notice on your sheet, there's one organization that we denied the funding for, and that was because that organization already has an existing funding agreement with the city, and it wasn't the intent of that organization, but we felt like that if we were to approve additional funding for that particular organization under this arm, it just didn't seem to make sense. That if that organization needed additional funding, they needed to come back through administration and work something out with Ryan, and then Ryan could present something to council to maybe increase the dollars in the existing agreement that we've already got versus funding over here and funding over here. Just, I would prefer personally not to get into that situation.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
So with that being said, are we sending communication along those lines to that organization so they know what avenues they need to be taken in this unique situation?
Answer that,
Yes.
Ryan.
It's to you, Tammy and Ryan.
Tammy and Ryan.
Yeah, are you referring to Kindred Care Kids?
No, I am referring to.
I'm referring to that $5,000 request on line 7. Tammy can bring it.
Yes.
Yeah, we will be sending a separate communication letting them know that they were not funded. In that letter, we can state that if the existing agreement is not working and it needs to be renegotiated, I guess we can have them come back. Before I send that letter out, I will make sure that it is ran by Ryan and we do get approval from council on that.
I just think it's important that we communicate to them that there's other avenues for them to find funding if it's necessary. This was just was not the appropriate way or the appropriate place to do it
Right.
for them.
Yeah, it wasn't even a
Yeah,
matter of,
we'll make sure that communication happens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy and Ryan.
No, we didn't tell him anything.
If there's no further discussion, I'd like to entertain a motion.
do we have to, okay, we have to have a motion on that?
Yep.
I'll do it. Madam Mayor, Council, I move that council approve the recommended community funding from the Community Funding Committee in the amount of $37,300.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'll call for a vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council, and thank you to each of you that spent an entire day.
A day.
Yeah, a full day.
A whole day.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your time in distributing these funds to worthy causes. And we are now on item 7B. This is a second reading and adoption by title only of Ordinance 19, Series of 2020, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City Repealing and Reenacting Chapter 3.12 and amending Title III by the addition of a new chapter of 3.13 of the Canyon City Municipal Code concerning sales and use tax. Ryan, you're on mute.
Thank you. Mayor and City Council, this is the second reading of this sales and use tax ordinance. Again, this is the work that we've done over the course of a year to move to state collected, and we've not received any additional public comments regarding this second reading. Tammy Nordyke, our Finance Director, is on the line if there are any additional questions.
Are there any questions from council? Would I like to entertain a motion? Councilmember Smith.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move to approve ordinance number 19, series of 2020 on second reading.
A second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. We now have the introduction and adoption by title only of Resolution 23, Series of 2020, entitled, A Resolution of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, establishing fees related to building and mechanical permits. We'll go ahead and, should we go ahead and turn the time over to you, Kathy, if that's all right?
Can you hear me? I didn't know if it was on. Seeking council's approval for resolution number 23, which would be establishing the building department, or building and mechanical fees and other associated fees with the building department.
Councilmember Meisner.
Item G, page 2. Item G, page 2. I'm not sure I understand that statement where it says, by failing to provide true and correct copies, or more so, that if an applicant fails to cooperate, why would we even give them a building permit if they're not cooperating?
This language was just basically copied from previously. This hasn't, none of that was changed. This has to do if they are wanting to not do like our building valuation data. They want to bring in all their contracts showing proof of how much they're spending to build the home. We'll use a home as an example. So instead, they'd like to bring in receipts showing that their home is only going to be at $200,000. Building valuation data may be at let's say $210,000. So there's two different ways to calculate a building permit when it comes to residential homes. The contractors had asked for this, and that's why it was put into place the last time, and I just left it there.
You're talking about the option 2.
Correct.
Well, I don't have a problem with option 2, but, and I guess it makes sense that if you move in the direction of option 2 and they fail to cooperate, then you go back to section 2, which is the square footage calculation, right?
Correct.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
So I'm very confused at this point because in the general government meeting on September 9th, you talked about doing, there should be a flat fee. Is that what you're talking about, option 1 and 2?
The flat fee is for plan review fees. That was plan review fees, that's a new fee, and that's on
Page 4.
Page 4, number C. And then we took several different communities from our size to see what they exactly did. We broke it down. We had talked about doing an hourly rate, so we changed it to $50 per hour, minimum 2-hour charge. On an average for a small home, which that's what we're seeing the majority of, it's not going to cost them over $150 for a plan review fee. Them are usually anywhere around 3 hours. Now, if you bring in a home that's 7,000 square foot with a finished basement and 2 stories, that may take 6 to 7 hours to plan review.
And this was based off staffing's hourly rate to review the plan, correct?
Correct.
So then I had another question about that, about just all of this. So I remember in the meeting you had talked about reinspection fees, and that you don't typically charge them unless you're going out a 3rd or 4th time. And then there was some discussion back and forth between you and Jim about putting that in this documentation, and I didn't see it anywhere.
I did not put anything in the reinspection fees. In the 21 years I've been with the city, we have charged 1 reinspection fee, and that gentleman, that was his 6th inspection. I can also put it in there if you guys would like. After the 4th inspection, we've never tried to really enforce that unless it's really a big problem.
I think for consistency's sake and transparency's sake, we need to have something in there that says, this is our policy.
Okay, so what would everybody like to see as far as?
I don't know if everybody else agrees, but that's how I feel.
Well,
Also that it's black and white. I'd say if 6 was your threshold, that.
you know how many you're doing. I mean, if most you do is 4, then to handle the situation, you set it at 4, but we need something in here so that we can say, hey, we gave you 4 chances.
Yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
that guy got 3, and that guy got 4, and that guy got 5.
And this guy says he was charged every time.
So that's where I'm at is, I mean, wherever you feel that threshold is at, which for the most part, it doesn't matter to me, but pick 3, pick 4, whatever. But
Yeah.
at some point, there needs to be a stop point saying, that's it. We're not gonna do another free inspection, we're gonna charge you for it. And you and Ryan have a better idea of where that number's at. But there needs to be a specific number in there, I think.
Okay.
And I think you could just put it in that table saying, plan review fee after, or on the 4th inspection. I don't know.
Yeah.
What number makes sense?
Okay.
And any
4.
feedback from
Yeah,
Ryan or Catherine?
Yeah, I think, we could put something in stating the 4th inspection and beyond would be, the reinspection fee would apply.
Okay, any other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Meisner.
So To determine the fee, you're taking the gross the gross area times the square foot construction, and I guess this is Plan 1, times the permit fee multiplier. And the permit fee multiplier is determined in item C on page 3, right?
Correct.
And part of that permit fee multiplier, you come back and use the net cost recovery factor, which is covered on item A of page 2, which is basically your departmental cost breakdown factor. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is it all right if we move on to Councilmember Reed?
Hey Kathy, I just wanted to ask, I read through it a bunch of times. I didn't see it. All the sprinkler stuff is gone, right?
Yeah, that's in the ordinance.
Okay.
It's coming up, yes. The sprinklers, the only time you would have to sprinkle the buildings would be after a 2-unit.
After what?
2 units.
Okay. I
So.
was just trying to remember all of the things that we had in those contractor meetings back when we were able to have them. And so kind of going through them. Was there anything else that you recalled that was really important to the builders and contracting community that you talked to that wasn't addressed?
No, that was the major one
Okay.
that they really wanted. There was one contractor that really wanted to see the blower door test go away. But because it's part of the energy code and it has to do with mechanical ventilation, it's really hard to make that one go away.
Okay.
There was only one out of all the contractors that wanted that. The rest of them were all for it.
Okay.
So,
I had similar conversations. I just went through it and I just wanted to make sure I was understanding and we were all on the same page. So thank you.
Councilmember Meisner?
So page 2, item 4A, net cost recovery factor. It seems a little, well, you tell me, or Ryan or Tammy, what are direct costs of operating and maintaining the building department? That's pretty vague, is it not?
again, that was in there from previously in our previous ordinance. Nothing has changed with any of that. It was just transferred over to this resolution. None of the language changed.
So does that include capital cost, Tammy? Not that you would have any.
Yeah, Tammy's not on the line anymore, but
That's on
no,
you then.
she does not typically have capital costs in the building department.
Do what?
No, there aren't typically capital costs in the building department budget.
The only time there would be capital costs is if we are looking to buy a new vehicle.
Oh, what?
A new vehicle?
Aren't you, or don't you have a new vehicle in the 21? Really? I thought they did.
No.
So,
There was a request for a new vehicle, and that was not funded.
All right, do we have any more questions about the fees related to building and mechanical permits? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion that we,
Resolution 20.
When you read the resolution,
Oh.
please also add to amend page 4, item 7B, to include on fourth inspection and beyond.
Whoa. Madam Attorney there.
That came from Administrator Ryan Stevens.
we approve ordinance 20, series 2020, entitled A Resolution of the City of Canyon City. It says resolution. It does say ordinance 20.
We're doing,
This is Resolution 23.
right.
Oh, resolution okay, resolution 23. Also amending page 4. Item
C.
7?
Item C.
Item C.
7B,
It's actually item B.
Who?
7B, reinspection fees.
Oh, you're right, sorry.
Amending page 4, item 7B, to include on and beyond the fourth inspection.
Is there a second?
Second.
There has been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Does that even count?
It does now.
We gave our best effort. We're learning our amendments here.
Wow.
And it's going to work. There has been a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll call for vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay, now we are on the introduction and first reading by title only of Ordinance 20, Series of 2020. And this one might kill me. This is worse than a proclamation. But this is Ordinance 20, Series of 2020, entitled, An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City Repealing Sections 1.01.110 and 1.01.130 in Chapters 15.04, 15.06, 15.07, 15.08, 15.12, 15.14, 15.20, 15.24, and 15.40 of the City of Canyon City Municipal Code and amending Title 15 of the Canyon City Municipal Code by the adoption by reference of the 2018 International Building Code, 2018 International Existing Building Code, 2018 International Residential Code, 2018 International Mechanical Code, 2018 International Fuel Gas Code, 2018 International Energy Conservation Code, 2018 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, 2018 International Fire Code, 2018 International Property Maintenance Code, 2018 International Plumbing Code, and 2020 National Electrical Code. All right, Kathy.
The building department is seeking a city council's approval for ordinance number 20 for the first reading of the adoption of the 2018 building and mechanical codes.
I would like to say for public record that we did have a room full of contractors on more than one occasion to review through this code so they could give their input on what they liked, what they did not like, and how they wanted to move forward on the 2018 building code. Really appreciate their participation and that we reflected exactly as best we could their recommendations. And thank you, Kathy, for all of the hard work that has gone into it. Just even reading the ordinance itself
Thank you.
was overwhelming. So thank you for all that you, and also Catherine Sellers and Corey Hoffman as well, have done. Councilmember Meisner.
I too would like to thank you, Kathy, and staff, and those contractors that had the time and the courage to come in and participate in this process. And I'm going to say that if you have a problem with the system, you need to participate in to make change. And I appreciate those people that stepped forward to do that, and I appreciate the help from the attorneys. My one question is, on page 3, where it talks about the Board of Adjustment / Board of Appeals, I would assume that that's in compliance with our most recent change that we made in terms of the appeal process. Is that
Correct, it is.
Any other comments or questions from the council? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion. Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor and council, I move that we approve ordinance 20, series of 2020 on first reading.
Second.
There has been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
That was too easy.
This is the result of how many months and months of dedicated research and public input and work. I mean,
Year and a half.
A year and a
weekends,
half.
Evenings, reading
That-
code books.
year and a half has paid off and made it really smooth and easy to be able to back. The update of 2018, we were way, way behind. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilmember Meisner.
I mean, I didn't read all this, but I trust, because we had contractors involved, the people on the street doing the job, that, and we listened to what their concerns were. Because we did that, then I'm good with it, even though we're not voting yet.
Any more discussion? Then I will call for a vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you, staff. Thank you to our attorneys as well. We are now on item 8. And I'll turn this over to Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move that City Council enter into executive sessions for the following purposes. Executive session to hold a conference with the city's attorney to receive legal advice on specific legal questions pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B concerning public health orders.
Councilmember Meisner.
Second.
So there's been a motion and a second? Mm-hmm.
I realize we're asking for an executive session, which would suggest we're going to get legal advice, and then I'm going to turn around and say, what are we going to talk about that requires legal advice? Nobody's talking. Is the attorney online?
Are you asking a question?
Yeah, I'm asking a question. I mean, why?
Attorney Sellers.
I am here, Jim. I think it's a question better directed towards the city administrator. It was his request for the executive session. I think there's some concern about, I don't want to speak out of turn, about the scope of the public health orders and just in general, some legalities around the public health order that perhaps he would like council to have answered. So, but I don't want to speak for him.
So I recognize that, and my anticipation was that we were talking about COVID-related issues and restrictions and legalities relative to that, and I don't understand what legal advice we would get in executive session that would be such that it couldn't be done in a public session.
You can receive that advice in a public session. That's your call.
I would recommend to this council that we not continue to go in executive session to talk about legal matters that are affecting the public, and in particular, discussions about restrictions. If we need to have those discussions, they should be an open public.
I very strongly agree. Very strongly.
Dolly, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that? I see you have your button pushed.
Well, I just wanted to say that I strongly agree. This not only impacts us, it impacts our neighbors, it impacts our constituents, it impacts business owners. And to keep this discussion that impacts their livelihood and their day-to-day living, to talk about this behind closed doors would give them a lot of anxiety. It would give me a lot of anxiety. So I don't think it's a very fair move to do to our community in such a time that we have had so much uncertainty.
Councilmember Jaquez.
Madam Mayor and members of council, we had a motion. Did we get a second?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to either withdraw the motion in the second, or we need to vote on the motion that was presented. That's what we have to do right now. Either vote on the motion that was made, or whoever made the motion can go ahead and cancel that so that we can do what everybody wants us to do.
There's been a motion and a second. There's currently discussion. If there's,
I just need a clarification to make sure I'm on the same page. So what we're voting on, if we vote, is whether or not we're going to discuss an executive session, not whether or not we're going to discuss. Am I
yeah, it'll
understanding
be-
that right?
Yeah, you will either, if you vote yes, we'll go to executive session. If you vote no, we'll discuss it here at the dais.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
I'll call for the vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Nay.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Nay.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Nay.
Councilmember Meisner?
Nay.
Councilmember Reed?
Nay.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
The motion has failed, and so we will discuss in public. Ryan, do you want me to lead or you to lead in this next conversation?
You know, I can get it started, and if you want to jump in, we can go from there.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So last week, we had a meeting with the Public Health Department before they put out their latest public health order. And I think, part of the reason for having the discussion around legal advice is to get advice from the attorney regarding what our obligations are as a city in relation to following that public health order, but also in relation to whether or not the city, what role the city should play or legally can play in additional restrictions. And Madam Mayor, I'll turn it over to you for any additional information.
I'll just give a brief overview of some of the conversation in that meeting. So the Fremont County Public Health and the county commissioners did a public health order with 10-day restrictions. That was to buy us time. Otherwise, the state was going to take action almost immediately. The 10 days gave us time to see if we could get our positive cases down. And if we cannot, then the state will step in. What the FCDPHE was asking for is if, as elected officials, if we can support the existing restrictions that have been made it will expire on November 6th. And so that's just a couple of more days away. But especially the messaging and the education that our businesses are at risk if we cannot get our case counts down. It was also suggested that elected officials consider adding further restrictions of their own on top of it to protect our businesses from complete shutdown. That was something I felt extremely uncomfortable doing. I knew that we had to go to City Council to discuss that. I also reiterated to the FCDPHE that really makes more sense coming from the FCDPHE and the county commissioners, as Canyon City borders crisscross quite frequently. And to do one restriction in one place and not in another did not make any sense whatsoever. We also do not have a public health department. I don't feel that gives us the authority to make those decisions. Since then, I did talk to our commissioners and some other elected officials in the county and felt reassured that they were not asking for us to make further restrictions either. They too share the sentiment that we need to protect our businesses as much as we can. And that having further restrictions would be terribly detrimental, and that our county commissioners, as I had stated earlier, had shared the story of Rochelle at the state level, and the story that a lot of our case counts and spikes are a result of our prisons outbreaks and probably a great many deal of DLC workers. Our small businesses have no outbreaks. It's not coming from small businesses. Our schools are not having the outbreaks. It's what we're doing in our own personal lives or other decisions that we're making within our community, or in some places, other workplaces that are having outbreaks. And so I definitely felt that Canyon City needed to make a decision within those realms and that we could be unified and talk about it together to make sure that we're doing what's best for our community. I'll go ahead and we'll have comments from council members, and we'll start with Councilmember Gonzalez.
I'm actually going to hold my comments for now.
Councilmember Meisner.
I'm going to direct my comment to the attorney, just under a hypothetical situation, that assuming that we make it through November 6th and there's a change, and the county or the state decides that there needs to be an increase in restrictions. If the city doesn't support that, what's our legal ramification?
So you don't really have any, and I'll frame it in the sense of legal recourse. You don't really have any options outside the legal system. You would have to challenge the public health order on some basis, and it would kind of depend on what the public health order was to be able to tell you what that might be. But, you know, the city, both the organization and the geographic area are subject to the order under state law. They are your public health agency. And so you are subject to their rules and regulations. And so it would have to be something in the order that would give us a right to go in court to have standing to challenge it. So in the sense of a legal recourse, that's kind of where everything is directed. Now, you may have other recourses that are non-legal, but that's outside of my scope.
Catherine, can you expound on how other communities have tried to have recourse on public orders and whether that has succeeded or failed?
The only one I'm really aware of that's been successful was the governor's order regarding petitioning for the election. I'm not aware of any other successes in challenging any public health orders. And it kind of varies as to, you know, the law regarding the public health order and what it is about and what the restrictions are and it contains. And so it's kind of hard to give you specifics, but in general, to my knowledge, there's only been that one successful case. There may have been other cases at the district court level that we wouldn't necessarily have heard about that may have been successful, but that's the only one I'm really aware of.
Councilmember Hawkes.
This is one of those things I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it. I don't know why, okay, why they're afraid to talk about it. But I look at it this way. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical expert. That's why, whether we like it or not, and I don't like it, but whether we like it or not, we have those people in that position that are looking for the welfare of the entire community, okay? And if they feel that these restrictions, which like I say, you know, I'm not a big fan of it, but if they feel that these restrictions that have to come into play if we don't comply with what we have to by that dateline, then that's what they're there for, okay? And we need to, you know, step up to the plate, okay? Like I say, I don't know who in here is a medical expert. I don't know who in here is a doctor. I don't know who in here has that kind of a knowledge that can contradict those people that are in those positions, other than the fact to say, we hope we don't get there. We don't want to get there, but if we have to get there because we're not complying, you know, that's kind of where it's going to go, okay? There's where I'm at, okay? If they say this has to happen, I rely on their medical expertise, the scientific area that they have, then that's why we're going to go where they're at. Like I said, I don't like to see any more restrictions. I hate them, but if that's what it takes to keep the community safe, then that's what it takes, folks.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
So, Frank, I hear what you're saying. And yep, they are in those positions. They went to school to get those degrees. But as Lori Leonard spoke earlier, they're giving us a lot of conflicting information. My daughter was quarantined. She wasn't allowed to work at the Boat Barn bagel shop because her cohort had 1 case of COVID. Now, everyone in my home who lives there with my daughter, we can go to work. She cannot go to work. That is conflicting information, and I don't agree with that. When it's conflicting and it doesn't make sense, I cannot agree with it. When it is impacting other people's lives, their livelihoods, and possibly taking their lives, I don't agree with it, okay? And that's where I stand. If it comes down to shutting businesses again, I hope that our community stands up and says, I'm not gonna do this, because it's wrong. They're not getting it at COVID. They're getting it at Walmart. They're getting it wherever they're congregating. Those are things that are happening outside of people's livelihoods. And when you start messing with that, it's gonna get emotional. Sorry.
And I'll come back with that too. I'm not disagreeing with you, but stop and think of, folks, what the reaction with the citizens in this town is going to be. We can have some very dissatisfied people, and they could cause a lot of problems because they can come back and say, City Council thinks that that's no good.
I hope they do.
And then we'll have trouble on the streets, and then people will get hurt.
I hope they do.
And you hope people get hurt. And I'm sorry that you feel that way.
I don't hope people
That's
get
what I'm
hurt.
talking about. I don't want to see people get hurt, and people could get hurt if it goes that way where we're saying as the council.
Because the government is telling us where to go and what to do.
We need to have order, and everyone has their opportunity to speak. It was Gonzalez's turn, and now next in line is Councilmember Reed's.
I believe that as citizens, a lot of this comes back to our fundamental beliefs, and I do believe that we have to consent to be governed. The people who put us in these chairs have a right to decide what is going on with their life, what they want in their community, and the risks that they want to take. And I understand that as a city, we do not have jurisdiction over the public health order. I get that. However, I disagree with it. I disagree with even the thought of putting in more restrictions, the thought of putting the businesses through this again, the kids through this again. I mean, we've gotten to a point where this truly is the outcome, like they talked about earlier, Debbie talked about, that President Trump said, that we are making it to where the way we are protecting ourselves is hurting us more than the disease is. And I cannot get behind continuing to hide behind that and continuing to say, okay, because we're afraid of what the state's gonna come down and do, because we're afraid of whether or not the county agrees with us or not. I cannot sit back anymore and say, okay, we're just going to comply. I understand that we have to do what is legal, and I understand that as a city, we cannot announce and proclaim or do anything against the public health order, but we do not have to continue to agree with it and go along and ultimately continue to go around and act like everything is okay if we just do these things. We don't have an end game. We aren't doctors. It is foolish for us to sit around and think that we do. But at the end of the day, discussing things like closing down again, discussing things like doing what they did in public with curfews, all of these types of things are going to put people's lives in jeopardy, their businesses in jeopardy, children's lives in jeopardy. I mean, the suicide rates that we're seeing, the mental health, the child abuse and neglect that we're seeing. At what point do we stand up and say enough? And the people who elected us, put us in these positions, are saying enough, and I hope they continue to say it loud. That's all I have to say.
Councilmember Smith.
Well, Mandy pretty much said everything I was going to say, but since I have the floor, I just wanted to ask a question. If the 10-day mitigation period, what is the repercussions if the cases aren't down in the 10 days? Is the state threatening to slide us back to closures, to stage
No, not
3?
full closures. We would be moved back to potentially level 3, 25% capacity, if I believe that's right. Right now, we are still technically at level 1. However, from what I understand, what will happen is the county commissioners and the FCDPHE will meet together with our local health department, and they will kind of talk through it. Maybe there's more mitigation that we can do. Maybe there's other things that we can do. Maybe we can buy ourselves some more time. So it's not cut and dry. It really depends on their numbers. And while I look at some of our neighboring counties like Pueblo and Colorado and El Paso, their numbers are way, way worse than ours, and they have been moved to level 2. Right now, as of this evening, we have a 3.3% 2-week average positivity. Our hospitalizations over the last 12 days is still in the lower green. We have 5 active hospitalizations. And our 2-week cumulative, which is kind of getting us, is 245.6, which is actually going down instead of up, although we did get 34 new cases and 2 probable over the weekend. And so really we're hoping that if we can keep seeing that direction moving down, or seeing that our community is going to rally and just really be supportive of, doing the best we can, then I think we have a case to do the best we can to petition to our state and to also take into recognition that a lot of this is a result of DOC, and they're really being super proactive to curtail the spread of COVID at this point, and hopefully with that can help us in our community as well.
So I have been keeping an eye on the Fremont County Health Department's website and the active cases, obviously for my livelihood as well as probably all the other business owners in town. I think there's some misunderstanding of the levels. Can we explain specifically how the levels work? Because as I was trying to explain it to somebody, I even got a little confused. Level 3 meaning the highest prognosis of?
No, that's not a full shutdown.
Okay, so the full shutdown is level 1.
No, level 1 is like the most we're at level 1 right now. We were almost going to go to protect your neighbor when things started to get bad. So level 1 is besides protect your neighbor, is one of the best levels.
Okay, so there's levels within protect your neighbor phase, 1 being the most open.
No, there's protect your neighbor, then it's level 1 where we are right now, then it goes down to level 2, down to level 3, and then it goes to level 4, which would be back to shutdown, which we do not even want to get close to whatsoever.
Correct. Thank you.
And that is on the CDPHE website. You can track those carefully. In Governor Polis's public announcement last week, I was listening carefully to it, and one of the reporters did ask about the 2-week cumulative, if that was going to be the only determining factor in what they would do for more restrictions. And in that, I believe he said that all 3 would be taken into account. If that's the case, we still have 2 that are in the green as of this day. And so I really think that it's really important for us to be a really strong voice this week to make sure that all of that is taken into consideration as we fight for our community and our ability to stay open. That I have a belief that we can coexist with COVID-19 and be healthy and safe and operate business as usual. It is turn for Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick to go next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I just want to make sure that that we seek clarity here in what we are being asked to do or what we're not being asked to do. But as I understand it, there's 2 things that we're being asked to do by our county officials and through them, by the state. One is to consider recommending to our citizens that they voluntarily take additional steps to help mitigate the spread of the COVID-19. And number 2, to support the county health officials and their state health officials in the issuance of that order. Do I understand that correctly?
That is the ultimate question really today is, are we willing to be supportive with this current mitigation? I don't think we should even bother discussing further restrictions on top of that.
Oh, well, I agree. Like Councilmember Jaquez says, we're not medical doctors and we're not in a position, I think, to recommend anything to our citizens in terms of additional measures beyond what the state is willing to do. In terms of supporting this, I think that it's not up to us to either to necessarily support this measure. It is what it is. The county can take what steps they deem appropriate, but I don't think it's appropriate for this body to take a position supporting what they're doing.
Councilmember Meisner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I thank you, council, for, one, allowing this discussion to happen in the place that it's happening. I'll just be relatively simple. We need to keep in mind that the masks and everything that we're doing is not to eliminate COVID. It's to slow it down. That's the only thing that we're trying to do. And I think a lot of times we all lose perspective of it, and not us, but the world seems to lose perspective that we're not going to stop it. All we're trying to do is to keep the pace slow enough that it doesn't overwhelm our resources. As I understand the whole process that we've been trying to do since March, that's the objective of it, is to slow it down. There's a lot of problems that exist with consistency and with direction and lack of direction that, unfortunately, some of that is a learning curve. But the point of having an open, somewhat legal discussion is to try to communicate to our public here, the city of Canyon City, and the council, for the most part, have absolutely no control over this whole process, because those decisions are being made by other people in authoritative positions that have the responsibility for the area, which we do not. So we need to continue to try to be safe, wear our mask, wash our hands, do our social distancing, and try to minimize the numbers. Aside from what the governor says, and the county commissioners, and the health lady, those are things that I urge people that we try to do to keep a handle on it. That's all we can do. Thank you.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Jim. That's kind of what I wanted to wrap up was, other than what we can do, that's all we can do. We have been ordered to live a certain way, and we don't have a say in the matter right now, but we can continue to keep our community safe and at the level we're at, whether we agree with it or not. But it's my hope that we can get past this without impacting other people's livelihoods along the way again.
Councilmember Brandon Smith.
So just based on what we've talked about tonight, November 6th is when they're going to pull the next numbers, correct? So we're looking at 4 days.
So Councilmember Smith, just a matter of clarification, the current public health order ends on November 9th.
On November
not
9th.
November 6th.
Yes, correction. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So we're talking 7 days.
We have 7 days where we can.
7 days to mitigate numbers, 7 days to stay at home if you can, 7 days to wear your mask, and hopefully this is a non-issue at that point through mitigation.
That is the ultimate best case scenario.
And that's what we want, correct?
Correct. Yes. Let's stay at level 1. Let's just do it. Councilmember Dennehy.
Well, I think we all have our views on this, and I think the main thing is that, you know, we want all of us to be safe. We all want our businesses to stay open, to strive. You You know, I have a little bit different outlook than I think a lot of us on council, only because COVID has affected my family members. I have a 33-year-old cousin who is very high up in the military, who was extremely sick with COVID, had to be isolated from his family for over a month. So I guess I look at this, and then we did have a loss in our family, and it wasn't COVID. They said it was, but we all know that different things can change on that. But I think the most important thing is to be like what Jim said, in that, you know, we know what we need to do to keep our distance, to keep our masks on. You know, are they an inconvenience? Yeah, a little bit, but are they that bad? Nah. If we can get through this, to make it get through it, I think if we all wear them, I want to see our businesses continue. You know, if we get more warm days, I get to continue with my business. And, but the main thing is like we said, this isn't within our reach as far as putting any controls on it, but we can do our part as a town and as a community to make sure everybody does their part, to make sure our numbers don't go anywhere. And that's the most important thing. Let's keep these levels low. I know that in a few of our schools recently, even preschools, they had it. But it's something that we all just need to watch and to make sure that we all do our part. If we all do our part, we can keep rolling. And I think that's the most important thing. Do the smart thing.
Thank you, Councilmember Dennehy. I really appreciate that. Any other words from staff?
No other comments from.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Councilmember Reed.
So I just had a question, because I just want, again, I guess make sure we're on the same page. My understanding was that one of the things that was being brought up was the potential for a curfew. Is that not the case?
There already is, under this current restriction, a curfew for serving alcohol to end at 11 o'clock, so it's 1
But we're
hour
not
earlier.
talking about a citywide curfew like what they did in other places. That's
No,
not something that's being considered.
I think we've decided that we don't want to put that on the table.
Because
Well, but
maybe I was wrong.
But to answer part of her question, we do have a 10:30 curfew.
Yeah,
Well,
I
there
guess
is
I
an
had
existing-
thought that was mentioned as one of the things that we would be discussing, is whether or not that would be something that.
That's age limit, though.
So I just wanted to make sure I just wanted to get
So
clarification.
that is important to have that. As far as the existing curfew, that was one of the things brought up in the meeting. Some complaints of youth gathering past curfew in large groups, and that we had asked for that to be brought to our attention if that takes place. That's already in the municipal code, with or without a global pandemic.
So we're not looking to do any additional curfews like what they're doing in other cities. We were just simply talking about the youth curfew that's already in place, and then the last call, essentially.
Right. Now, if city council had different feelings and wanted to be super protective, then we could have that conversation, but I didn't have the stomach to have that conversation, and I definitely got the impression that nobody else does either.
I just wanted to make sure I was understanding. Thank you.
Councilmember Meisner.
I think just to reiterate with what Brandon said and Ryan, the goal is to get to the November 9th numbers, but we gotta keep in mind that that's not even a midway point. We don't even know where it's at. We need to try to keep the numbers low going into November 9th and going into December 9th. There was already projections that as we came into the fall and came into the winter and came into the flu season, that we were going to have a spike in the numbers.
Yeah.
We just need to try to minimize that. Yes, it's going to save some lives, but the reason it would save some lives is that we don't overwhelm our resources. That's the key. We can't overwhelm the resources and use common sense.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
So, Mandy, I just want to clarify, because I heard the same conversation on the phone when I got the call. That conversation did come up as a possibility to the topic tonight. A curfew, similar, the quote was said, a curfew similar to what was happening in Pueblo.
So
There was an ask from the FCDPHE for us to take that into consideration, and that's why we called the meeting.
Okay, well, I mean, if we're going to vote on that, I'll
Yeah,
speak out
so
of
that's
turn.
what I want to know is, what are we voting on?
I'm not in
tonight?
favor.
We're not voting on anything, we're having a conversation. And where do we want to go? I feel like the overall message is, please, Canyon City, be responsible, be respectful, do your part to keep our numbers low, do your part to support our small businesses. We recognize that there are a lot of people with health complications. Our goal is to keep those numbers low and to help keep our hospitalizations low. And let's just keep moving forward. Let's get through this the best we can as a community. We don't want more restrictions, but we do want to move forward with our lives. And that's going to take cooperation from us collectively to do the best we can through this winter season.
Can I say one more thing? Because I have a feeling that people feel that I came off insensitive about this whole topic, and that is not the case at all. I have had very dear, very close, in fact, I have a family member who is in the hospital right now with COVID. So it does affect me, it does affect my family, and I want everyone to know that I do have feelings and I do know it's real. I just think that there's a lot of inconsistency, and there's a point where you need to be reasonable about some of these recommendations coming down.
And I will just say for the record as well that I will probably writing another letter to the governor, telling him how y'all feel, and that we'll move on from there. Councilmember Jaquez.
First of all, I want to say, Dolly, I still love you. Okay.
Whoa.
But anyway.
Oh my gosh, that's even better than Tim.
I think we're all in the same pathway. That the basic thing is, folks, please do your part. And if you do your part, we're going to come through this in good colors. We'll never get rid of it, like Mr. Meisner said. We're not going to get rid of it with the mask. We're going to hopefully slow it down so that we can kind of have a halfway decent area where we can do things that we want to do and enjoy the businesses that we have, enjoy being able to conversate with our neighbors and our friends and everything else. So please, and especially all you folks that go to City Market, wear your mask. That frustrates the heck out of me in there. But please be safe.
Councilmember Smith.
I just wanted to comment on the inconsistencies that Dolly was talking about. And I think that and this is just a personal observation, where inconsistencies come from is they're trying to have this one-size-fits-all type of solution to the problem. Specific, like I can give an example. My business has 3,000 square feet, and then businesses similar to my business have 700 square feet. And during the first opening stages, we still had the same parameters for opening, which doesn't entirely make sense because we had so much more room, but it was that one-size-fits-all type of solution so that we could all open. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think that's where the inconsistencies come from. I wish we could clean that up a little bit, but I think that there's too much time and effort to specifically go in and dial in every specific business or something like that. And I hear what the business owners came tonight to say about the inconsistencies as well, which we've all experienced. But I don't know if there's entirely a solution to the inconsistencies. They're just something we have to deal with.
Councilmember Meisner.
I wish sorry.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, I wish there was a way to deal with those inconsistencies. That has been a fight that we've been advocating since the very beginning. And unfortunately, at this point, we've run against a brick wall on that.
Councilmember Meisner.
I recognize that the governor has a huge challenge on his hand, but I would ask that if you write the governor a letter, that you ask him to at least, as he moves forward in his decision-making process, to do some consultation with the small businesses and the small communities when he's making those grandiose decisions about barbershops, that they're all not the same. That the barbershop in downtown Denver is different than the barbershop on Main Street in Canyon City. And I think where we've got some more consistency and failure is failure from the top to involve some of the people at the bottom in those decisions and how they impact those people.
I took notes from y'all. Thank you for your input. It was really important to me that we talked collectively together, that we can be unified as a city council, and that that we're in this together. And I don't know, let's just quote Tim Dennehy and we'll move on for the rest of the night. But thank you, everybody. Please be safe, please be careful, and have a good night.